Hey guys, after careful studying, I found out that in order to grow my YouTube channel, I need to have some kind of funny quip at the beginning and then immediately cut into an intro song. So here's what we're gonna do. Hey everybody, what's going on here? Today we're doing a little compare and contrast between the old Nintendo Switch OLED here that we got, the newest model, and the old Steam Deck here that everyone is gushing about online and all of the kind of handheld and gaming PC oriented channels. But we're going to do a little compare and contrast, not a review of either, or oh, the Switch is better because of these reasons, or oh, the Steam Deck's better because of these reasons. They're both great devices. They both serve and cater to a little bit different niches, and there's a lot of interesting differences, so let's get right into those. Alright, the two biggest elephants in the room, the two biggest differences we're going to see between these devices are obviously this being the 512 gigabyte model is price, and then of course size, weight, width, chunkiness. And this is a chunky boy, make no mistakes. You're not going to want to be holding this like up above your face while you're laying in bed for very long at all. Your hands are going to get real tired. But price, Switch OLED here, $350. It was a little bit of a price hike compared to the regular Switch, the V1 and the V2. But you did get some extra features, like obviously the OLED screen. You got a really nice kickstand here now, which is something the Steam Deck really should have, especially at its price. And then you got an Ethernet port on the actual dock itself that you put the Switch in. So a few changes, price hike, not a huge deal because you are paying a little bit more money, but you are getting more features. And it's not that much of a price difference. While the Steam Deck here, turn the screen off for a second, we got the 512 gigabyte model, as I said here, and the differences between this and the cheaper models is that this has a gloss or a matte screen compared to the cheaper ones that have a glossy screen. It's got the nice carry case and all the cloth and the screen protector that come along with it, and it's got faster storage. Not only does it have more storage, but the storage is of a higher quality, right? So this compared to the base model, which is 64 or 256 gigabytes, the storage in this is about, depending on the game, somewhere between 15 and 25% faster at loading things, at getting into the games, at going through loading screens, etc. So not an enormous difference, but definitely a noticeable difference. Now this model here is, I believe, $649 retail, and that includes the case and all that kind of stuff. The cheapest model is $399, which compares a lot more to this. And you can, if you're really tech inclined, or if you're an enthusiast, or you just want to save money anywhere you can get the cheaper model of this, the 64 gigabyte, and put your own SSD into it, which isn't very hard. But Valve does say that once you unscrew this to put your own stuff in and you screw it back together, it's never going to fit together quite the same as it did. There'll be a little bit of give. So if that's something that bothers you, you're holding it and you feel it and you feel that little flex, a little bit of flex, maybe go for the higher storage model or get like an external SSD when you hook it up at your desk or something. But otherwise, both very good build quality. But the thing I would first come about in terms of build quality is the Switch, though it's a little cheaper, especially compared to the model of the OLED versus the 512 gigabyte we're looking at here. I prefer the build quality on the Switch over the Steam Deck. The Steam Deck, while chunky, while a beast, it, like I said, without unscrewing it or anything, there's no flex. This is a solid device. Feels good in the hands. But this is, I don't know if it's all metal, but certainly the kickstand here is metal, cold to the touch compared to the rest of it. And it just feels smoother. It feels of like a higher build quality. Not necessarily like all the materials are way higher quality, but just feels like a higher build quality, like it's machined better. So I will say that despite its price, it feels better, at least the device itself. Now the controller parts, the Joy-Cons compared to the grips on the Steam Deck, no contest. This is uncomfortable for long periods of time, especially if your hands are larger. And it's just not, it doesn't have a very good ergonomics. It's completely flat except for this little outcrop up here. Not comfortable to hold, and the buttons are very small. Whereas this, it obviously contours quite a bit to your hands. Your hands rest naturally, especially on those back buttons there, you can see them, which is another advantage this has, is those back buttons. But this is much more comfortable to hold for long periods of time, unless you're like lying in bed and you're doing it sideways, or you're doing it above your head. That's going to get uncomfortable pretty quick due to its weight. But you would think that between these two devices here, obviously this one more expensive, more powerful, this one cheaper, more accessible, that okay, that's it, that's the niche, that's a niche. One's for children, one's for adults, or one is for enthusiasts, one is for casuals. But that's not really the case when it comes down to using the devices. Now obviously with the power this has, with the Linux based OS that it has, and just the customizability it has, there are a lot of issues when it comes to bugs, when it comes to features. This has a killer feature that this doesn't have, which is the similar to what Xbox and PlayStation do, is the quick resume, right? Where you can tab out of game. I can go to the Steam store. Let's see if I can open it here and we can take a look at it real quick. But let's say I launch Hades right now. It's going into the game, launching it in Vulkan. And after that launches, I'll be able to tap the Steam button here and go to the Steam store while the game is still running. So we see we got the game running here. We tap Steam, click library. We can go look at our library. We can tap store, go look at the store, see what's on sale during the holidays or whatever. And then right up here we see our game that we're currently in, Hades. We can go right back to it. That is a nice feature of the new consoles and of the Steam Deck. Now you can kind of do that to an extent with the Switch. Like, it does pause the game. The game is still running to a degree, but it's not the same as it is with the new consoles and with the Steam Deck. But that feature that I really like has led to a lot of issues with the Steam Deck, where I will boot up the game, I'll launch it, I'm in the game, and I'm gonna go check the store in my library or something. And then I go back to the game, and it's showing here, like it'll show me at whatever I was last, the pause screen most likely, but it won't work. Like I can move the cursor around, the game's not frozen, but something in the OS has screwed up and I have to reboot the system. I can't see the store, I can't see my library, and I can't do anything in the game. It's just hung on something. So then I have to completely restart the device, which kind of defeats the purpose of having a quick resume. So that's something I've run into, not an enormous amount of times, and I think it's gotten better as updates have come out, but it is something that still happens consistently on this device, probably like 2 or 3 times a week. Now it's not a huge deal because it reboots pretty quickly, but it is something to take note of. Now going back to the differences between the controllers, the buttons on this one, obviously we talked about the contour, fits better in the hand. Buttons much bigger. I prefer the presses of this. Like, it's really, you feel you're pressing it, you hear it. It's like an Xbox controller. It really has that same shape. Whereas the Switch one is much more like a shallow, like doot doot doot, like a PlayStation Vita style, smaller button, and not a lot of actuation, I think is the word. Other than that, really good joysticks, much better than the Joy-Con ones. And we have these funny touchpad things here, which I'm sure you've at least researched a little bit or heard about at this point. But these can work as either a joystick, a D-pad, which we do also have a D-pad here, or a mouse cursor. It depends on the game, and the cool thing is, based on the game, you can go in the settings, and you can change the controller layout here. So let's go here, go back to Hades again here. We open it up, we see controller settings is one of the options. We can go to that. And right now we're using the official layout, so this is what the developers intended. But if it's an older game that maybe doesn't have controller support, you can go into Edit Layout and change it yourself, or you can click on the layout and go to Community Layouts and find one, most likely for just about any game, that someone else has made already. That's pretty effective. So that's really nice, especially if you're playing older PC titles that weren't designed around controller use, or even modern titles that just don't have them for some reason. So in terms of that, it has a good workaround in for those games you might want to play on their older PC titles that you know will run well, but that don't have the proper support. Now, so we know obviously that the software is much more complicated on this. This is a PC. This is a gaming system. This isn't designed or can be used as a personal computer. This can. There is a desktop mode you can go in, and it's great if you like emulation, because you can go in the desktop mode right there, download the files directly from the browser, put them in the files, whatever, and then switch over to Steam and you have access to it all right there. Of course, you can do anything else you want, light browsing, videos, whatever you want to do, but it's not great. It's not something you'd want to do. If you have a laptop or a desktop or even a phone from the last 5 years, it's going to be more enjoyable to do it on any of those than it is on this, because to make it enjoyable on this, you're going to need an external keyboard, you're going to need a mouse. This will suffice if you're doing just a little bit of something, downloading a quick file, quick game to put in your emulator, and you're out of there, you're back to the Steam OS. But you're going to need peripherals if you want to use this as a computer. Obviously you're going to want a dock or something, which is not included like it is with the Switch, which is going to raise the price. I think the official SteamDeck dock is like $80. There's some third-party ones as well you can get. And then you're going to need a cable, a really high-end USB-C to DisplayPort or USB-C to HDMI, something like that. So to use this as a full personal computer, which it's capable of to a degree, its components are good enough to do most light or medium tasks. But that's significantly going to raise the price of this device. But then you might be able to justify, because hey, I get a really high-end gaming handheld out of it, and I get a decent personal computer. So that might be able to be justified in your mind, and I could see a scenario where it could be as well. Another thing I wanted to show, again, the kickstand. It's not something you have to dwell on a lot, but kickstand, really nice, and this nice metal kickstand covers the full length of the tablet part of the device. Kickstand would be really nice on this, especially because of this being PC games. You have an option with a lot of things to play multiplayer, local co-op, whether it's a fighting game, beat 'em up, or something like that, anything that supports it. Maybe a Lego game you want to play with the kids. This needs a stand. This needs a stand that you can connect a couple controllers to the device, which it supports Bluetooth, of course. Prop it up and be able to play those kind of games without hooking it up to an external display and all that fun stuff. It needs some kind of built-in display, and I'm sure the next model, or maybe the next one down the line, when they reiterate on this a little bit, will have some kind of kickstand to hold it up, because that's a glaring omission. And I see why they probably couldn't. We got the exhaust, I think, back here, or maybe this is the intake actually. So it'd be kind of hard to block that with a flap that goes all the way across the device. But I'm sure they could have thought of something, even if it's like an external thing you might attach onto it or something. But that's kind of my overview of the main points, the main differences and comparisons and contrasts that I had between these two devices. Ultimately, people are going to come and say, which do you recommend? Do you like this one or do you like that one? I think they're both great. I think the absolute biggest thing, which I will end on here, that shifts me between these devices and why I can't fully commit to the Steam Deck is battery life. It's 100% battery life. Obviously, you can tune this thing to a T to get the best battery life possible. You can get pretty good battery life if you're not playing very intensive games. But if you are, which is the whole point of this, is AAA games in your hand. So you're going playing Assassin's Creed, Elden Ring, Call of Duty, whatever is available, whatever you can play. At the lowest settings, you're looking at an hour to an hour and a half. If you don't limit any of the wattage or the GPU frequency, etc. You're looking at an hour, hour and a half. And even if you don't mess with any settings, even indie games on this, like something like Hades, like we were showing, I actually got better battery life, on the Switch. On this device, I'm constantly worrying about battery life. I'll start a game, I'll play a couple rounds, a couple runs of Hades, and I'm getting that 20% battery remaining, 10% battery remaining. Now, I don't check the time exactly, but it's no more than 2 or 3 hours at the most. Whereas the Switch, though it's not great in terms of battery life either, I've never once sat down to play, and played a whole session of whatever I'm playing and then gotten that battery warning. I've never played or been able to play to get 10% battery before. And that happens just about every single time I use this. Now that's a combination of I don't just sit and play one game. I usually mess around a little bit in the desktop and download some emulated games or files or mess with things like that. But the amount of playtime I get per full charge is not anywhere near where I'd like it to be. And I believe that Steam has already said they want to do another iteration, and in the next one they're not going to focus on changing the internals too much, but they're going to focus on battery life as one of their main concerns, which I look forward to. It makes me a little upset I bought this one, but I'm happy with it overall. But the battery is definitely the biggest issue. And if it's something that you worry about, or you travel a lot and you don't want to carry battery banks, chargers, cords, everything everywhere, and you're not necessarily looking to play the biggest and best AAA games on the go, which is kind of a novelty anyway, then a Switch is going to be better for you. Plus, it's way more portable. You take the controllers off, throw them in your backpack. Most men, at least, could probably fit this in their pocket because we got huge pockets. Let's admit it. But that's what I had to say about the Switch, about the Steam Deck, about the comparison between the two. And from the rumors we hear about the upcoming iteration for the Steam Deck, as well as the future Switch hardware, we're probably at least a year off from hearing about either of those, let alone getting them in our hands. So if you're going to buy one of these, I think you're pretty safe buying one now. You're not going to be sitting here tomorrow and be like, oh, the Switch 2 or the Switch Pro or Steam Deck 2. I don't think you have to worry about that. But both of these now are in stock. You can walk into a store and get the Switch OLED very easily. And the Steam Deck has been in stock on Valve's website for well over a month now. So you have access to both of them. If you're tech inclined and you like messing with stuff and you want to go for the best of the best, and you don't care about battery life, this is a no-brainer. If you do care about battery life and you like Nintendo stuff and indies more, and you're more interested in being able to play something like Dead Cells or Hades, just doing that on the go, then this is definitely your cup of tea. Both devices are awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. We'll see you all next time.